Hi, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Titans Browns the day after. I'm your host, Ken Moore. We have a lot to unpack here tonight. What happened in Nashville between the Titans and Browns? We'll look at Tennessee's playoff possibilities. Did J-Rob's offseason moves jeopardize the Titans' chances or of an AFC championship? And we'll also look at the future of Corey Davis. Can the Titans afford to re-sign him? We have a very special guest in the house tonight as well. We will get to him and everything else next on Titans the day after. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. Excited to have you guys here with us tonight. I'm your host, Ken Moore. We got a big show here tonight. We're going to talk about the Titans and Browns, what happened on Sunday in Nashville. What can J-Rob do, if anything, to fix the problem that he created this offseason, and a look ahead to the Titans and Jaguars. And to help me break it on down is my man, the Blue Enforcer, from Titans in Truth. He is here to break it all down for us tonight. I had the pleasure of being on his show several weeks ago. It was an outstanding opportunity, and I wanted to invite him back here tonight to talk about everything Titans and what happened in Nashville on Sunday afternoon. My man, Chris, Blue Enforcer, what's going on, buddy? What's going on in Tennessee?
What is going on, everybody? And I'm glad to be here. Thank you for this opportunity, and it's a pleasure. And I wish we were talking under happier circumstances, but we going to get through this. We still got games left to play. Let's get with it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Well, the big news today coming out of Nashville, a couple of roster situations that, the Titans have been battling, the injury issues the entire season. They've been dealing with suspensions the entire season. And we got breaking news here late this evening that wide receiver Adam Humphries will be headed to the IR list. Of course, he suffered that concussion several weeks ago against the Cincinnati Bengals. He missed a couple of games. He came back on Sunday. He did not look himself in that ball game against Cleveland. He had a couple of drops, including a critical bobble late in the third quarter when it looks like the Titans were getting back into the ball game, trailing 41-21. Tannehill hit him on a kind of an end cut, and the ball hit him in the face mask, popped up in the middle of the field. The Browns intercept, and that pretty much put to bed any chances that the Titans had of coming back in that ball game. Blue Enforcer, your thoughts on Humphries going to the IR? How much will the Titans receiving core miss him for at least the next 3 games?
Well, judging from the fact that after, that the Titans seem to do okay without him, I mean, it's not really that. I don't call it that big of a deal because I'm kind of mad at him because he dropped that pass. He usually is very sure-handed when it comes to making those type of passes. He's supposed to be like our third down blanket, always getting first downs, and just, like you said, didn't look like himself. It took him a little bit longer to come back from that, from that concussion. And now, if he does come back, it's only going to be that final game of the year. So, I mean, that gives another chance to Khalif Raymond and Cam Batson. Cam Batson, of course, he had that, that bad snap with the Wildcat, but then came back with a great catch on a fourth down in that drive before Humphries, bobbled and dropped the pass and turned into an interception. So I mean, hate to see Humphreys down, but I think we'll be fine without him. We were fine without him these last few games. We beat Baltimore without him. We beat Indy without him. So, I'm okay. I hate to say it, but I'm kind of off of the Humphreys train. So I'll be
Yeah,
fine
yeah.
I think we'll be all right without him.
Okay. I think he does provide a critical element on third downs. The Titans ratio of three and outs has really increased the last couple of weeks. I think we had about 3 or 4 three and outs on Sunday. And I think he's critical in those situations for Tannehill because he's kind of been a safety valve on those 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 type plays because he can go get 8 yards and come up with a critical catch. So for big playability, I definitely agree with you. But I think we've really been missing him on those 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 type situations. And with the way our defense has been playing, we really cannot afford to have many 3 and outs.
That is true. I definitely, you're absolutely right with that. Because I mean, again, he was supposed to be that third down security blanket. When the chips are down, if it's 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 6, you get, Adam Humphries in the middle of the field or something like that. He catches it for like 8 or 9 yards, keep the chains moving. That's what he's supposed to be there for. And you're right. And it's really, the offense has kind of took a small step back, really ever since Taylor Lewan's injury against Houston. Once that happened, the offense kind of did start taking a step back a little bit. I mean, not too bad because, I mean, they're still doing well and scoring points at times. But, I mean, he was a security blanket and, we're missing him. We don't know what's up with Jonnu, if he'll be back for this next game. That's another security blanket. So, you really did see a lot of Ferkser in this game against the Browns. So, it's going to be interesting to see how they go forward with this. So I appreciate you correcting me on that particular part as far as a third down security blanket. So, I always say, hey, call me out if I make a mistake.
It's not a mistake, man. I mean, we all make them. Johnny Bell, he got in early. He said, Ken, we got to do better than these slow starts. It only hurts the team every single time. And it seems like every time, if we don't win the coin toss and get the ball first to go down and score, looks like the defense allows the other team to go down and score. And then it just puts more and more pressure on our offense. And it seems like we get into these 2nd and long, 3rd and long situations. And again, I think that's where you miss a Jonnu Smith. You miss Adam Humphries in those 3rd down critical situations. Devin getting in thinking, should we sign Kenny Stills? Kenny Stills would not be a bad option at this point. He is still out there available. It may be something that the coaching staff and J-Rob should consider. What do you think about Kenny Stills?
And he would be I'm not sure if his speed threat would have been, taken away, as his careers went on, but he does bring that added dynamic element. And I mean, him and Tannehill are familiar with each other back in their days in Miami, so it wouldn't take long for them to gel together. So I mean, that would not be. I wouldn't, I wouldn't just shrug something like that off if that is a possibility. I don't know if they'll look that way or anything like that. I mean, I don't know, but I wouldn't be against it. We need all the help we can get. So I wouldn't be opposed to it, not one bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we definitely want to invite everyone to hit the subscribe button on my channel. Go ahead and hit that like button. Get your comments in the comment section.
Hit that
For myself,
button.
yes, sir. For myself and Blue Enforcer, as we break it all down. Blue Enforcer, go ahead before we get too deep into everything. Let the people know where they can find you and how they can subscribe to your channel.
Absolutely. You could go under Titans and Truth. As you can see right here on the title, you see that's where you can find me. You can find all my content right there on YouTube. Also, if you're on Facebook, Titans and Truth, the official Facebook page. We have the TNT Enforcers fan page as well. On Instagram at Titans_N_Truth. And of course on Twitter at TNT Blue Enforcer, and that is with a number 4 in the middle. So that is where you could definitely find any and all of my content. I got to get better with my Twitter game, to be honest. But definitely all my content is on YouTube. All of my content is on, I usually put it on Facebook. And I'm getting better with Instagram and Twitter. So check it out. Come follow. You won't regret it. Shows every Wednesday night. I'll have a episode coming tomorrow night as we preview the Jacksonville Jaguars. And definitely coming up with some things. So definitely look forward to doing that tomorrow. So come join me.
All right, awesome, man. You guys go join him and make sure you hit that subscribe button. Now, the second bit of
6
news
p.m.
that we got, 6 o'clock tomorrow night, Central Time. Now, the second bit of news that we got last night was that Teair Tart was going to be suspended. Teair Tart has been coming on as of late in that reserve defensive tackle where he would back up Jeffrey Simmons. He had the big game against the Colts a couple of weeks ago, but now he is suspended for one game for stepping on a Cleveland Brown on Sunday, something you just can't do. I mean, Mike Vrabel talked about it. You just can't do stupid things to hurt the ball club. It was completely uncalled for. Now he's facing a one-game suspension. He does have the ability to appeal. He has 3 days to file an appeal. If he does appeal, he could possibly be available against the Jaguars until his appeal is heard, which means if it's not successful, he could possibly miss the following week against the Detroit Lions. Detroit, of course, will come in fighting for a playoff spot. Your thoughts, Blue Enforcer, 1, on the situation with him stepping on a player, and 2, should he even go through the problem of filing an appeal?
I got a little bit of a glimpse of the replay of that particular play. And I mean, no, you shouldn't step on anybody. I don't think, and I mean, honestly enough, the way it looked, now I could be definitely wrong, but by the way it looked like it was, not intentional. That's what it looked like, at least from my eyes. It looked like it was, okay, play was going on. He's going to make a play, and he accidentally stepped on him. Now, again, maybe the league saw something and just said, you know what? You were trying to step on that guy. You got to go down. So, I mean, it's still something that shouldn't happen anyway. You could have went around or something like that. You were far away from the play anyway. So, I mean, it's messed up because he was coming, like you said, he was coming on strong. He was getting some good snaps, some really good snaps. And it's a guy that you thought, you know what, this guy could become a starter maybe or something, next to Jeffrey Simmons. So it's unfortunate. It's messed up. I think, honestly enough, and I'm not trying to underestimate the Jags because we don't deserve to underestimate anybody right now. I mean, I know how important this game is, but I would rather him go ahead and miss this game and have him ready for Detroit, Green Bay, and Houston and going forward.
Yeah. It's going to be tough, man, because you don't want to underestimate a Jaguar team, and that is a critical game. I didn't think I'd be saying the Jacksonville game, when we started 5-0 or when we got to 8-3, that this would be a must-win. But considering where we are right now, and we'll look at the playoff scenarios and all of that a little bit later in the show, but where we are right now, this is a must-win ball game, and with all the injuries we've had on defense, I'm kind of thinking you try to get this game in the bag. You may need Teair Torts, especially if Jeffrey Simmons or Daquan Jones were to get nicked up in practice this week, or if they got nicked up in the game. You need that extra big body. But again, you just can't put yourself in those type of situations where you hurt the ball club.
Absolutely. And I mean, this, like you said, for the sake of the division, if you're trying to wrap up the division, this game is a must-have. You got to show you take care of business in division games. The Colts already have 2 division losses. You only have 1. If you go ahead, take care of this game, now you're 4-1 in the division. You're 4-1 in the division. You're that much closer to going ahead, wrapping up the division. You lose this game, you're just giving the Colts more life. And it makes that game that you beat the Colts in that much more meaningless. And I mean, again, I think that's what happened with us against the Browns, and we'll probably talk about this. Maybe they fell asleep at the wheel. They thought this game was going to be, a cakewalk, or they thought, you know what, we're at home. It's the Browns. We should be able to beat them. We don't deserve to overlook anybody right now. We don't have that right. We're not Kansas City. We're not Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh obviously overlooked Washington. Look what happened there. We can't do that. We don't afford to do that. And I think, Vrabel usually doesn't make the same mistake twice. And this team better learn and wake up from this and realize a lot could be lost in these next few weeks. Nothing's been won yet.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, a couple of good things that have happened over the past 48 hours. It looks like for the Jaguar game, it looks like for the 12th, 13th time, Isaiah Wilson, as he goes back and forth from being inactive and suspended, it looks like he will be active again for the Jaguar game. And it looks like Darrington Evans, the third-round rookie running back, looks like he has been activated off of the injured list and look like he is available, or at least should be available, to practice this week in hopes of getting ready for the Jaguar game. Of course, we still don't know what's going on with Adoree Jackson. We don't know what's going on with Christian Fulton, two key guys that we're still missing out of that secondary. Your thoughts on just the rest of the roster? Isaiah Wilson. Hopefully we can get Evans and Fulton back. We haven't gotten anything from our draft picks this year. How big of a concern has that been for you?
That is definitely a big concern. I'm glad you brought that up because, I mean, this is the thing that really just bugs me, grinds my gears. It's the fact, I understand sometimes you don't want a lot of information to get out. You don't want a lot of stuff getting out, getting speculated and talked about. But sometimes you got to give a little bit of something. Throw a little nugget or something like that. And like you said, I take this whole thing with Darrington Evans with a grain of salt. Why? Because of the aforementioned Adoree Jackson situation. Adoree's been active since week 4, I want to say? And he has yet to suit up. He has yet to play. He's been getting, they've been saying that, he practices a couple of days, then he misses a Friday, he's inactive. Or he doesn't practice the whole week, and Vrabel keeps saying, well, he has good days and bad days, there's no step back. I'm like, Vrabel, come on. Do you think we're stupid? We know something's going on. How is it that you say, you know what, we're activating Adoree off of the injured reserve list, but yet you haven't played him in how many weeks? Something's going on. There's got to be some type of setback or underlying injury. And again, you said it, same thing with Darrington Evans. I don't expect Darrington Evans to play in this game. I will be shocked if he plays in this game or gets through the whole week practicing. Just by the way Coach Cautious does his thing. That's what I call him. He's Coach Cautious. He holds everything so tight to the vest, don't want to tell you nothing. And he speaks, I like to call this too, he speaks Belichickian to the core. He speaks fluent Belichickian. We'll do a whole lot of this, but he's not saying anything at all. Fulton, we don't know what's going on with him. It's a mysterious injury. I'm like, we need these guys. Tell us something.
Well, we didn't even know Clowney had surgery until after the game on Sunday, and he had surgery last Wednesday.
And they didn't mention that till before the game. That came out.
I mean, how do you not update the media? And if you're the media, how are you not asking these questions if you're on these Zoom calls with Vrabel and you have to ask the question? You may not get the answer that you want, but you have to continue to press and ask questions because injury should be known. I mean, of course, you don't want the opponent to know what's going on, but with Adoree Jackson, I mean, has he had knee surgery? Has he had a setback? Like, what is going on with him?
He's had
We did get a lot of information on Clowney that he had the meniscus. He was gonna try to play through it. He did play the one game hurt, and then of course he was out after that. And then I guess he finally decided to go ahead and have surgery. But in agreement with you, you have to give the fans something. You have to let us know something as to what's going on with these guys.
And that's just the thing. Again, speaking fluid Belichickian, a whole lot of talking. He does a whole lot of talking, but he's not saying anything. It's like what do you think we're gonna do? We're gonna go tell fans of the opponent what's going on. We're gonna start talking too much ourselves. I mean, yeah, we'll probably get some information, but we're not gonna, jeopardize the team or anything like that. Come on. I mean, you're taking us for fools. And I mean, yeah. And the reason why I think the media doesn't ask the questions, and I kind of understand, because it's like, why bother asking the question? We know what the answer is going to be. We know what it's going to be. If you're asking, like, what happened with this game in particular, he'll just say the usual garbage. Well, we got to play better. We got to coach better. We got to do better, which we all get sick and tired of hearing. So, I mean, I agree. You should throw us a bone or something, but, coaches are not going to give away as much information. They're only going to give away what they want you to know, the little bit they want you to know. So it's unfortunate, somebody somebody put it out there thinking, well, maybe they maybe they said to Clowney, go ahead, maybe get the surgery. We'll try to bring it back, next year or something like that, which, I mean, I wouldn't read nothing into that. I mean,
right.
We don't know what's going to happen in the offseason as far as I'm concerned. Kind of disappointed, that not much more production, even though I knew he existed better than Beasley. So disappointing, but we got to soldier on.
Right. Well, we're going to shift gears here for a second, man. And as you know, and as I know, we always hear the saying that everyone has a twin out there somewhere. And that is even true in the football world. There is another team out there that is exactly like our Tennessee Titans. What if I told you there was another team with a 5-0 record to start the season, like the Titans? Over the next 7 games, they lost 3 out of 4, or 3 and 4. They went 3 and 4. Then looks like they were bouncing back, win 2 games in a row, just like the Titans, and then come home on Sunday and throw up a stinker. That team mirror images the Seattle Seahawks, a team that has an MVP candidate like the Titans, Russell Wilson, Derrick Henry. They both have 2 dynamic second-year players, ironically from the same school, in DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown, and 2 real good complementary receivers, Tyler Lockett and Corey Davis. Both teams 8-4 right now. My man, when you see both of these teams, everybody talked about both of these teams being possible representatives of their conference in the Super Bowl. Seattle's been struggling as of late. The Titans struggling as of late. Can one or either of these teams get it turned around? And how surprised are you to see both teams have such eerily similar seasons?
It is interesting that you said that, because I saw the tweet when you put it out. I saw the tweet that you put it out, and they are very mirror images of each other, because of course, we love to run the ball. What does Seattle like to do? Run the ball. They like to run the ball, and they like to go play action and go off of Russell Wilson. Their defense, not that great, even though they picked up Carlos Dunlap, which I thought we should have tried to do. We should have tried to do something like that, or Geno Atkins won. And, they're trying to come up better defensively, but they're having their issues as well. But I mean, yeah, very, very mirror images. And I saw the end of that game to a very bad loss to the Giants, and it hurt them. But they're still, I want to say, at the top of their division, even though the Rams are definitely surging also with that. So I mean, very mirror images. I think both teams could come out of it because I mean, a lot of people still they love Russell Wilson and think that he's such a dynamic player. Got much love for Russell Wilson, indeed. So I mean, there's still plenty of time to get out of it. They're in a tough division like we are. So yeah, I think that both teams can come out of it. They just gotta grit their teeth and get it done any way, shape, or form. So that's how we got to do that. But if y'all see me looking off, I'm looking at that Cowboys game and saw some news. Not a Cowboys fan at all. I love football. And
also, I don't know if you saw breaking news before the Cowboy game tonight. Not to be the else that Dez Bryant is not playing tonight. He tested positive for COVID today. So the Ravens still having COVID-19 issues. So thoughts and prayers go out to them and their organization. And Dez, I know he really, really, really wanted to play this game tonight against the Cowboys. I wanted to see him play tonight against the Cowboys. So that's very disappointing.
And even more than that, I'm going to add some more on top of that just came through on ESPN as well. He's basically calling it quits. He's calling it quits. Dez is calling it quits after this since he was a late scratch and wasn't able to play this game. He tweeted out, "I'm calling it quits." That was from ESPN. I believe that was from Adam Schefter. He's calling it quits. He says he's done.
Oh wow! And I know he worked really, really hard to get back. But it seems like it just may not be in the cards for him. I remember when he went to the Saints last year, and then the first couple of practices, he tears his Achilles. And then he's been playing, practicing and working out and putting his workout videos up. And he's really been an inspiration to a lot of people that have suffered that injury. I suffered a torn Achilles about 10 years ago. And I know it's a very, very difficult injury to overcome. Especially if you're old like me, it's really, really hard to overcome. But we're prayers to him, and I hope he doesn't call it quits because I really would like to see him continue his career and hopefully finish this season. But if he does decide to do so, I just hope that the COVID-19 situation does not affect him too much. Now, to get into one of my favorite portions of the show, it's what I like to call the good, the bad, and the concerning. And that was all three coming out of that game on Sunday against Cleveland. The good, my man Corey Davis has been balling. Look at his numbers on the season: 53 receptions, 801 yards. That's 15 yards per catch, and he has 4 touchdowns on the season. Now, Corey, of course, is finishing the last year of his 4-year, $25 million rookie deal. Right now, he ranks 18th in yards in the NFL, 19th in yards per catch. But Pro Football Focus has him ranked the second most productive receiver in the NFL this year. Your thoughts on the season of Corey Davis, and what will it take for us to re-sign him?
Let me tell you something on this. I am going to go on record. I said on my show back before the season started, I'm thinking, like a lot of other people, that this is probably Corey Davis' last year. As much as I've been a fan of Corey Davis throughout his career, I kind of thought this would be his last year because, unless, he just has a breakout. And the thing about it is, I always said it. It's either he's going to be not good enough that we just say, you know what, we did right at not picking a 5th-year option. He can walk anyway. Or he's going to be so good that he plays himself out of our price range. I think the worst case scenario is starting to play itself out. The way that he's looking, he's starting to play himself out of our price range a bit. I mean, the guy, like I said, he's on pace right now to have 70 catches, about maybe 1,068 yards or something I read, like 71 catches, 1,068 yards, and I want to say like 6 or 7 touchdowns. That is what he's on pace to get. And if, you let him go to some other team, he's going to be another team number 1. You let him go to somewhere like Green Bay or even New Orleans. I know they got Michael Thomas.
New England needs a receiver. New England needs a receiver. New England needs a receiver.
Yo, New England needs a receiver. You're right. If he goes to that point, those 50 catches going to be turned to 70, 80, 90-yard catch seasons every year. That's going to be what's going to happen with him. And think about this. As far as contract is concerned, you're going to have to cash out to pay Corey Davis some. You're going to have to pay him some money. I mean, the only other option that you could think about, yes, you could think about the franchise tag. Now, the franchise tag is projected at about $16 million. About 16, maybe 16.2, I want to say. It was like 16.02 the last time I looked at it on, I think, over the cap. And that is probably your last resort because I think you got to keep them. You're going to have to find a way to get them back. But another problem that the Titans are going to run into with the salary cap even going down, look at some of the top receivers. And I know I won't get these numbers right. DeAndre Hopkins making over $27 million. Julio Jones is making about $22 million. I want to say Keenan Allen is making around $19-20 million. Julio is making about $18 million. And I think some other, receivers are making like $15-16 million. So, and I think a low-level receiver, I think, I cannot remember his name. Somebody brought him up. Is like making like $9. And that's like a third, fourth receiver like Adam Humphries. So Either way, you're going to have to pay Corey Davis. And we were talking about Humphries earlier. This is a thought that I would not be opposed to. As much as I know Humphries does bring that third down security blanket, I would say, you know what, at the end of the year, cut Adam Humphries, give that $9 million and a little bit more, repay Corey Davis. You can draft a speed wide receiver or another wide receiver that just has those good hands in like the 3rd round or something like that, and we'll be just fine, in my opinion. That's just me. I could be talking out the side of my head. If I am, please, please come at me.
I looked at some numbers today, and you can release Adam Humphries at the end of this season, and he would have $5 million in dead cap space that would go against your cap. Okay, so that's a pretty significant number.
That is.
So you probably want to keep Adam Humphries. However, you're only paying A.J. Brown a little under $2 million. So you still have A.J. Brown on his rookie contract for another.
He's going to have to get paid. He's going to eventually, if he keeps going with that trajectory minus the drops, he's going to be deserving of some money.
Right, but that's 2 years down the road on AJ.
That's
so
true.
I looked at some numbers and kind of compared Corey to some guys that he's kind of in the same neighborhood with. So the low end would be Adam Humphries at $9 million. He's getting more than $9 million.
Yep.
Tyler Lockett, who's the number 2 in Seattle that we just talked about. He's currently making around $11 million.
Wow.
Stephon Diggs, who's the number 1 in Buffalo now. In 2018, he signed a 5-year, $72 million deal with the Minnesota Vikings. Okay, so that put him at around $14 million per year. Okay, so I'm thinking for Corey on the low end, if we would have picked up his 5th-year option, it would hit us for $17 million. So that's the ceiling, in my opinion, is $17 million. The floor is probably around 12 million at his rate of production right now. So if you
Okay.
could get him either one, if you do the franchise tag at 16 million, or if you can sign him for maybe a 3-year, $42 million deal with maybe about 26, 27 million guaranteed, something a little bit more than you did for Derrick Henry, because obviously those are two different positions. But
Yeah.
if you can get him on an average of around 14 million a year with about 28 guaranteed, and then you maybe have that 3rd year option that would push it to 3 years, 42 million. I think that's something they should be offering Corey Davis right now, and something that he should strongly consider. But I could also see his vantage point of, hey, y'all didn't want to guarantee my 5th year. I'm
Mm-hmm.
balling out. So now I'm going to the highest bidder.
Yep. I mean that very well. You're absolutely right, because I mean that is a way he could look at it as, you know what, I'm like, yeah, I didn't pick up my 5th year option. Yeah, I didn't believe that I was, worth keeping that 5th year. So I, I might need a little bit more than that 14 million that you're talking about. But again, it's like um honestly enough, if you produce and you bet and do well, John Robinson knows, for example, number one, Corey Davis is a team player. Corey Davis is an exceptional team player, a terrific blocker. He has very sure hands, because very few times have I noticed Corey Davis really dropping a ball. Very few instances do I notice that. And, one thing about it is with J-Rob, if you take care of the team is going to take care of you in J-Rob's eyes. So I think, like with Derrick Henry last year, yeah, Christian McCaffrey got 16 million. We knew Derrick Henry wasn't going to probably get that much, but they got Derrick Henry, I want to say what, close to 13, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken.
Derrick is
And
at 12 and a half.
12 and a half. And
Right.
see, a lot of people would have said that's the low end for a guy like Derrick Henry.
Right.
So somehow pull that off. I think if you get him a good amount of guaranteed money on the front end, I think it could work its way out. It could work itself out. And I think definitely J-Rob, if I'm him, I know he usually doesn't do this, he needs to go ahead and sign Corey Davis before the season is over. Get him re-signed before the end of the year, because you may have a better chance and a better bargain. You get first dibs. If you let it go into the offseason, you're going to let other teams swoop in and steal him away, and then we're right back to square one where we started. We'll have AJ, but then we got to find his running mate. They work really well together. A lot of people compare them to not Batman and Robin, but Batman and Superman. They work well together. They work well. Iron Man, Captain America, they work well together. It's 1A, 1B. Got to keep this together because they feed off of each other. Corey struggles, AJ picks it up. AJ struggles, Corey picks it up. Like to see them both do it together, and they could both get 1,000-yard seasons this year. Got to get it done.
I think you're right, man, because you're not going to find another complimentary receiver like a Corey Davis in the draft. It's going to take him another 1-2 years to develop. And think how good Corey Davis would have been. And look, we all like Marcus Mariota, but obviously Mariota, for whatever reason, could not get to that Pro Bowl level of quarterback that we needed. And I think that really hurt Corey Davis the first 3 years, and really kept his market value down. And really, probably Marcus Mariota is probably the reason he didn't get that 5th-year option. Now, of course, Corey did have his own share of injuries the first couple of years as well, but it just never meshed with him and Mariota. But he and Tannehill, along with A.J. Brown, and if you can get Jonnu Smith back to the level that he was producing at last year, you really have an excellent 3-headed monster at that wide receiver and tight end position. And then, of course, you got that dude in the back, number 22, that, doesn't need any explaining. You really got to find a way to get Corey Davis back in this lineup. But now, Go ahead. Go ahead.
And before we do get that, I didn't mean to cut you off. Because remember, there were times that everybody was wondering, which one do you keep? Derrick Henry or Ryan Tannehill? There was that discussion of, do you keep one or the other? They were able to keep both. So, I mean, it is possible. But at the same time, it's like you have to think about it. You know, you got 3 big free agents that are coming up. Corey, Jonnu, Jayon. Who are you going to keep? Right now, in my honest opinion, Corey Davis flew to the top of the list.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
You got to hang on to Corey Davis, and, you know, one of the other two, chips fall where they may. Hey, if we lose Jayon as much as he was doing well, love Jayon. Would love to hold on to him. If not, you can find another Jayon Brown. You got David Long. If Jonnu is the odd man out, Jonnu's athleticism is second to none, but you can find another Jonnu. Finding another Corey Davis is going to be very, very, very difficult. Because just because you're a highly touted receiver in college does not mean you're going to be a highly touted receiver in the NFL. Take Justin Blackmon, formerly of the Jacksonville Jaguars, as a perfect example. Was highly touted, didn't do nothing but get in trouble. I mean, and I know that's a very bad example, but hey, just because you did great in college doesn't mean you're going to do great in the NFL. Right. We see it all the time.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, we want to invite you guys to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit that notification bell so that you'll know the next time that we're on the air, so that you can go ahead and get our information. TNT, go ahead and give them your information again, Blue Enforcer, of where they can find you, and then we'll get over to the bad segment.
Absolutely, because we got a lot of bad to talk about from that day. Again, y'all can find me on TNT on Titans and Truth. You can find me on Titans and Truth on YouTube. You can also find me on Instagram at Titans_in_truth. You can also find me at on Twitter at TNT Blue Enforcer. And you can also find me on Facebook at TNT Enforcers, also Titans and Truth as well. So you can definitely find me there. And all the content that you need is there on any of those platforms. You will find me, and you will be able to be involved. As far as the show, come subscribe. I'm on the road to 1,000. I'm trying to get there. So, we all trying to get there together. And as y'all can see right there, that is my Instagram. Any other Instagram is not true. That is me right there. So that's one of them. I'll show y'all the YouTube later on.
All right. Good deal, my man. Well, let's dive right into the bad, because we got a lot of bad to talk about. First of all, I want to look at J-Rob's offseason. The guys that he decided to let go and the guys that he decided to bring in. Look on the left, the guys he brought in. Jack Crawford, underwhelming. Beasley and Clowney, nothing else to say about those guys.
Right.
Christian Fulton, he replaced Logan Ryan. That has not worked out thus far. He's barely been on the field.
Yep.
Obviously, Jonathan Joseph was a complete disaster. I knew that would happen being here in Houston.
Yeah.
Then you go down to the offensive side of the ball. We let go of Jack Conklin, who was a former All-Pro Pro Bowler. We draft Isaiah Wilson. That's been horrible. And then the kicking situation has been like a seesaw up and down. Ryan Suckup, of course, got hurt last year. We decided not to bring him back. Now he's having a tremendous season with Tampa Bay. And then with Gostkowski, it's either feast or famine with him. You never know what you want to get. These were my grades. Defensive line, I gave him a D, letting Casey and Correa go and bringing in Crawford, Beasley, and Clowney. In the secondary, I also gave him a D for letting Logan Ryan go. bringing in, well, drafting Christian Fulton. Nothing against the draft pick of Christian Fulton. He obviously just hasn't been healthy, but really replacing Logan Ryan with Jonathan Joseph was an utter failure. You see how well the New York Giants defense is playing with Logan Ryan right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the offensive line, I had to give this an F. You let Conklin go. You draft Isaiah Wilson. You should have known, did we do our homework on him or not? And then the
Right.
kicking situation has been a failure as well to this point. Your thoughts on J-Rob's offseason?
You know what? There's a lot to unravel from that. And I mean, that is about as accurate as you're going to get. Because I mean, if you look, let's start with the defensive line. Like you said, when the news came out that Jarrell Casey got traded, I know exactly where I was. I work another job and I was sitting at my desk. I saw this come across my phone. I had to literally stop working for a second. I'm like, what in the world? J-Rob, what have you done? What are you doing? Now, part of me understood why that move was made, because I mean, Jarrell was going to be due about $13 million the next 3 seasons, this season and the next 2 seasons off of that. And I kind of understood why. And then, you bring in Beasley, and that was an epic fail from the beginning. Clowney, I understood doing that. I would have rather kept Casey, not signed Beasley, get Clowney. Now, I don't know if maybe they tried to restructure Jarrell Casey's contract, and he said, you know what? I've already sacrificed for this team enough. I'm not willing to restructure anymore. Maybe that was what happened, and that's what led to him getting traded. Kamale Correa, yeah, it would have been nice to have him, but he's not really doing much down in Jacksonville right now either. I mean, he doesn't have any sacks with Jacksonville, so he wanted to be cut out because of Beasley and Clowney. So it kind of reminds me with Correa. I know a lot of people may not be familiar with this. I'm a fan of the Memphis Grizzlies. And at one time, some years ago, they brought in Allen Iverson. They brought in AI toward the end of his career. The Grizzlies gave him the red carpet treatment, gave him a guitar and everything, because we have a big guitar factory here. So they gave him the big royal welcome. Played 3 games. Didn't even get to play a home game. And our point guard, Mike Conley, was struggling. And I'm just thinking to myself, AI, if you just keep your mouth shut, you will be starting soon. Just keep your mouth shut. He didn't. He got released. Same thing with Correa. Correa just didn't keep his mouth shut. If he kept his mouth shut, he probably could be playing right now instead of Beasley or Clowney, because we could have used him.
He'd be starting right now.
Oh, wow. And I just saw that. Justin Tucker misses a field goal?
Oh,
that is a shock.
2020, bro. Anything can happen.
Tucker never, and that was from 36 yards. He never misses. He never misses. I'm sorry, y'all. I just saw that. That is a shock. As many of you will probably know as football fans, Justin Tucker is as automatic as they come. He never misses a kick. He never misses a kick. He missed one now. But on the secondary front, yes, Jonathan Joseph was horrible. They only brought him in to be assurance to get Clowney. We know that. Stunk all the way. Borders is playing better than him. Even though Borders had a bad game this time, it happens to everybody. We are missing the hell out of Logan Ryan. We are missing him like crazy now. I'm like, J-Rob, you wish you gave Logan Ryan that $8 million? You wish you could have gave him that money? I bet you do now.
Sometimes, bro, it's not even about on the field. You have to consider what's missing from that locker room. And you look at the offensive side of the ball, really the only guy that we lost off the offensive side of the ball was Conklin.
Okay? Exactly.
And David Kelly has done a nice job. Yeah, obviously, Wilson has not been there. We were expecting him to be our swing tackle and developing to become the starter for 2021. That has not come to fruition. But on the defensive side of the ball, when you lose guys like a Casey out of the locker room. Wesley Woodyard, who was at the end
Mhm.
of his career, but that's another veteran present. Logan Ryan brought a winning attitude and culture. Him and Malcolm Butler
Yep.
brought that Patriot knowledge to our locker room. Malcolm's a little bit quiet. He's not really a talker, but Logan Ryan was that leader that really elevated everyone in that secondary to perform above their natural abilities, and losing him has really been invaluable. And all you
Yep.
have to do is look at that New York Giant defense right now and how he's really instilled leadership and confidence in the young players on that team. And now they're one of the better defenses in the NFL. And I don't know if the Titans can overcome those losses and be able to make a successful playoff run this year.
Yeah, and I mean, that right there is probably going to be one of J. Rob's biggest mistakes he's ever made, was not bringing back Logan Ryan, because you could have brought him back even with a Christian Fulton, and I mean, right now you could have had Butler. You could have had Butler. You could have had Borders. You could have had Ryan. You could have had Desmond King. Desmond King has Desmond King has
He's
done
hit
a
and miss.
fairly
He's hit
decent
and miss.
job.
Yeah, he's hit and miss.
He's hitting miss right now, but he's doing a fairly decent job. Not great, but he's doing okay for a guy that's only been with the team for about 3 games. But yes, again, like you said, with Woodyard, with Casey, with Logan Ryan out, we are leaderless right now defensively. We don't have a leader. Rashaan Evans making boneheaded play after boneheaded play. Jeffrey Simmons is trying to become that leader, but he made his mistake Sunday as well. So they kind of had, they need to get their heads out of their tails. Fix this. Byard, is trying to be a leader. He's having a horrible year. Logan Ryan was the glue that held it together, not just on the field, but like I said, off the field. All his stuff he was doing with dog safety and everything he did in the community is just invaluable. He was an ambassador for this team, and that is sorely, sorely missed right now. Isaiah Wilson, a disaster. No doubt about it. I hated the pick from the word go. I hated that pick. If you go, anybody can go back and look at Titans and Truth, my draft coverage from round 1. When that pick was made, I was immediately ticked off. I hated that pick. There were so many other ways we could have and should have went with that pick instead of Isaiah Wilson stinking it up. The Panda, Poe the Panda from Kung Fu Panda did better than him. He at least tried to master the craft of Kung Fu. Wilson ain't doing that. And don't get me started on Suckstowski. He has embarrassed the entire University of Memphis. And I'm an alum
Oh,
with him.
yeah, he is a University of Memphis guy.
I mean, has disgraced the blue of U of M to the core, of the University of Memphis to the core. And look at this. Like you said, Suckup is having a good season in Tampa Bay. Who else did we have as kicker? Cairo Santos is having a terrific year in Chicago. And Cody Parkey, who we just saw, not doing too bad in Cleveland. And we got Gostowski. J-Rob, fix this. You need to fix this.
Yeah, he had a very, very unimpressive offseason to say the least. Now he's tried to correct that by picking up, trading for a Desmond King, but picking up Borders or elevating Borders or whatnot. I really don't know what the team can add. Do you think there's anyone out there we can add for this final stretch run that would really make a difference on either side of the ball? Other than I do like the Kenny Stills suggestions from earlier in the show, in case Adam Humphrey's going to be out for a while.
Yeah. You know what? And there were 2 other key subtractions. Not necessarily J-Rob's doing, but Vrabel's doing, is that Two key subtractions that we are missing like crazy as well. Kerry Coombs and Dean Pease are two major subtractions that we are sorely missing as well. Of course, Kerry Coombs is now the defensive coordinator with Ohio State. Dean Pease is retiring. And you said, what can we do to add, what can we add for this stretch run? If I'm Mike Vrabel right now, I would be on the phone or going to Dean Pease's house right now. I would literally knock on the door and be on my knees begging, Dean, please come back. We need you back for this stretch run. Please come back. We need you now. It wouldn't take long for him to get this defense back together because you know what? They would remember. They would remember because whatever with him, with Vrabel and Bowen, whatever they trying to cook up or whatever in this defensive coordinator situation, it is not working. It hasn't worked. It will not work. As soon as Vrabel did not hire a defensive coordinator, I was terrified because you know this being down in Houston.
Yep.
The one time he was defensive coordinator, where were the Texans ranked defensively?
Last.
Exactly. Dead last. When Dean Pease unfortunately had a heart attack against Indianapolis 2 years ago,
Right.
and Vrabel had to call the defense.
Right.
What happened?
Right.
We got our butts kicked in that game.
Race.
It was ugly.
Race.
And I would be begging Dean Pease to come back immensely. At least I'd be like, Dean, give us 3 years, please. Just give us 3 years. Groom somebody younger to take your place, and help us for these next couple of years, please. I would beg. And like Two Tones on the saying right there, Kerry brought that energy to that defensive back room. Something that I don't know Anthony Midget or anything like that at all. I don't see that same energy. My man catch no balls is no more because it seems like my man catch every ball now. So though I would be begging Dean Pease to come back. And I mean, the Kenny Stills idea is a nice idea. I know somebody would say, should we maybe kick the tires on Clay Matthews? That might be something that maybe has ran its course. I mean, I don't know if Clay Matthews is going to be able to give you anything, major right now as far as sacks or anything like that. I think that shit maybe has sailed, but you're going to have to do something. Got to do something because this defense is pathetic. Pathetic. Every single player. I'm not leaving anybody out. And Borders is definitely better than Jonathan Joseph, hands down. Yes, he had a bad game. I'm not going to hold it against him because every corner has a bad game. Jonathan Joseph had a bad game every game. Borders, I think, could bounce back. And will be okay. We will see. But, man, I would be begging Dean Pease on my knees, begging him to come back. I'll give him whatever he wants to come back.
Come on back, baby. Come back, baby. Come back. All right, my man. Well, we're going to go to the final portion of this segment, which is the concerning. And my concern right now is us winning this division. As it stands right now, deadlock with the Colts. Of course, we do have the tiebreaker as we look at the schedules for both teams down the stretch. We both play the Jaguars. We play them this week. The Colts play them at the end of the season. We both play the Texans, but the Titans have 3 of their final 4 games on the road. Indy has 2 games at home, 2 games on the road. Both schedules look pretty even. Indy has a big game this week against the Raiders. And then, of course, they play the Steelers in week 16. Your thoughts on this remaining schedule? Can the Titans pull it out?
The Titans have no choice but to pull this out. Because if you take a look at what's going on, first off, if you take a look at what's going on right now, we're 4th in the AFC standings. Because of the loss, Buffalo has jumped back over us. And if any of y'all are in Nashville, you listen to 102.5 The Game. Even though I was not liking how this conversation was going, I kind of understand what Jared Stillman was saying about the road to the Super Bowl. Right now, with the Steelers suffering their first loss, Kansas City, I believe, only has one loss.
Correct.
So if the Titans stay in fourth, even if they win the division, they're probably going to be facing either the Browns or the Colts in round one. If it stays the way it is, if Kansas City gets the number one seed and the Titans somehow get past the Browns or the Colts, which I think they would, where are you going next? You're going to play Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City. Not only are you playing them at their house, they're coming off of a bye week. They get extra time to rest for you. That ain't exactly a recipe for success, even though I would say, look, fear no team. Go out there and play. But the way our defense is playing, I would be kind of horrified. But, hey, might get lucky. We did last year. And so I would rather take a chance at Pittsburgh and then have to go to Kansas City for the championship game. That's what I would rather do. So I think that might be better if we get to 3. So winning these next 2 games, we need to take care of Jacksonville and Detroit. Take care of Jacksonville and Detroit. With Green Bay, we just go up there and let the chips fall where they may. We do the best we can do. Maybe we scratch out a win against Green Bay. We don't. That could be y'all give me a second. I'm trying to get my computer together. That could be a, toss-up kind of a game. That could be a toss-up kind of a game as far as Green Bay. And then Houston, you take them at the end. With the Colts, that game against the Raiders is not going to be easy because the Raiders, they're going to be desperate. They're going to be desperate to hold on. The Jags and the Texans, the Texans are going to be looking for revenge because they felt they let one get away. And Jacksonville will love nothing more than to sweep the Colts because remember, Jags beat the Colts in week 1. And that Steeler game, if the Steelers could beat the Colts, that could be all we need to finish up the division. That could be all we need. So I like our chances. I think we win the next 2. Even though it's not guaranteed. If we win the next 2, get to 10 wins, I think we could wrap up the division before that Green Bay game, especially if the Colts lose 1.
Let's look at the probabilities right now. I got this up on the screen. Can you see it pretty good there?
I can see it there.
All right.
Yeah, I can see it.
So right now we're at 65% to win the division. All right. So let's assume we win this week against Jacksonville. That goes up to 72%. Now, we haven't put in the coach yet. And let's assume we go ahead and beat Detroit. Okay. And this is before we get to the Packers and the Texans. Now, right now we're at 82%, assuming we win the next 2 games.
And we'd be 10-4.
We'd be 10-4 at that point. The Colts, they play the Raiders this week. The Raiders have looked terrible the last 3 weeks. Ever since that game against Kansas City, they have looked horrible. The Jets gave them the game on Sunday when Greg Williams called that ridiculous blitz and got himself fired. So I'm going to say the Colts win this game against the Raiders. What do you think about Colts and Texans? The Texans really should have won that game. If they don't have the bad snap at the 2-yard line at the end of the game. Your thoughts on the Texans going to Indy in 2 weeks? Do you think the Texans can pull the upset?
You never know. You got to think about, even though the Texans have a horrible roster and everything that's going on, they still got number 4 at quarterback, who is as probably dynamic as ever, one of the most athletic quarterbacks in this league. With a better team around him, you could put him up there with an Aaron Rodgers, a Patrick Mahomes, or a Russell Wilson. If he had a better roster around him, Deshaun is up there without a doubt. I mean, anything can happen with a divisional game. This is a divisional game. Houston is going to be looking for revenge. They're going to feel they let that one get away, and they're going to come up there saying, look, we going to beat this team. We got to beat this team. We let one get away from us. So I like the Texans' chances. I think they could have beaten them before, like you said, unless they had the bad snap, because I think Deshaun was going to score. So if that happens, if the Texans beat the Colts and we win the next two, I think that wraps up the division for us, because the Colts will have 3 division losses instead of 2. We only would still have 1 division loss with the Texans left to play. So with that alone, we have a better chance of winning the division. So we win the next 2. They lose one of the next 2. I think it pretty much could wrap up the division in our favor before we even go to Green Bay. And in that last game against Houston, we could maybe rest some guys. Not saying we should. I'm just saying it's a possibility. Derrick Henry, you could rest him a bit. Tannehill, maybe he plays a little bit, get Logan Woodside in. I'm not trying to read too far into it, but that's just saying what could happen.
Right. Well, I'm gonna play the little game here. And so I'm going to have the Colts beating the Raiders. I'm going to give the Texans an upset, have them lose to the Steelers, and beat the Jaguars at the end of the season. As you can see, the Colts lose the division. They can't win the division at that point if they lose to the Texans. They cannot afford to lose another division game.
So what would happen if, let's just say, like you said, they beat the Raiders, lose to the Texans, even if they win 3 of the next 4 and lose to the Steelers. Let's see. I think you said, yeah.
So you're saying win 3 and lose to the Texans?
And lose to the Texans. It's only at 22%.
They only at 22%. Because if they lose to the Texans, that means as long as we beat the Texans and the Jags, we would be fine. So if I flip it back over to Tennessee now.
Yeah. That's actually a cool model right there from the New York Times. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's sweet. I feel like the dude from NBC last night that was breaking down everything, Karnacki or whatever his name is.
Mm-hmm.
But we could lose to the Packers, and if we beat the Jags and we beat the Texans, then we're in. We're in. We're 100%. We would win the division under that scenario. Any 3 wins gets us into the playoffs automatically. Any 3 wins gets us into the playoffs. The key is winning the division and getting a home playoff game so we don't have to go on the road 3 consecutive weeks like we had to do last year.
I agree.
But the thing that scares me, to be completely honest, is this Texans game at the end of the season. I do not want to go into that game having to win that game, because look what happens if we lose to the Packers and we lose to the Texans. We're still in the playoffs, but we do not win the division, assuming that the Colts fall under the scenario that they had. So I think no matter what happens, unless the Colts somehow lose 2 of the next 3 games, I think no matter what happens, we're going to have to win that final game of the season against Houston to win the division. I think it's going to come down to that final game.
And I mean, I can agree with that. I mean, you would hope it doesn't have to come down to that final game. But I mean, now I might be reading it wrong again. But I mean, that's what I'm saying is that we got Detroit and Jacksonville next. They have the Raiders and Houston next. Right. And I mean, right now we're 3-1 in the division. We beaten the Colts, Texas Jags each once and lost to the Colts. We're 3-1 in the division. The Colts, I believe, are 1-2, if I'm not mistaken, in the division, because I think they
2-2.
2-2. Thank you. Yeah, that's right, because they play 4. That's right. They're 2-2 in the division. So I think if we win this game with Jacksonville, we're 4-1 in the division. at worst we'll be 4-2 division wise. Now I don't know if that really matters as far as record within the division. I don't know if that really gives any merit as far as who wins the division or not. Because I mean, probably somebody could go 6-0 in the division and then lose all the rest of their games, so it won't really matter. So I mean, I think that could be the case, but I mean, if it came down to that, I think we would have a favorable position. But yeah, I wouldn't want it to be that last game. I would like it to be where we wrapped it up before the Green Bay game, or anything like that.
That's why that loss Sunday was so critical, man, is because you really put yourself in a situation now by losing to Cleveland. You likely have to win 3 out of your last 4
to wrap up the division.
Because it's likely that Indy's going to win 3 of their last 4.
That is true. So I mean, we gotta keep winning. Winning cures all ills. So that's what we're gonna have to do. We put ourselves in. We dug ourselves a little bit of a hole. We could get ourselves out of it, and the only way to get out of it is to win. That's all we can do. All we got to do is win. Win no matter what.
Yep. All we got to do is win no matter
what. Got money in your mind, ain't going to never give it up.
All right, my man. Well, before we get out of here, let's just take a quick look ahead to the Jaguar game. Of course, the Titans come in 8-4. Jacksonville comes in 1-11. Looks like they're not going to go back to Minshew. Looks like they're trying to solidify that number 2 pick in the draft, so they're going to stick with Mike Glennon as quarterback. One thing that I did notice, Titans fans, please be aware of Colin Johnson, rookie wide receiver out of the University of Texas. He's a tall, about 6'4". He can run. He can catch. He has a long wingspan. He's had 2 tremendous games the last 2 weeks. I expect them to go to Colin Johnson if they hope to win this game early and often against our secondary. What are your thoughts about going into Jacksonville, hoping that we don't take these?
Well, you're right. Again, like I said earlier, we don't deserve to take anybody lightly at all. Sunday was a perfect example. That is what happens if you take somebody lightly. They will come out and kick your tail from jump. We made mistake after mistake, and it cost us. And I think this team, they need to come out the exact same way they came out for the game against Buffalo. They need to come out angry. They need to come out completely focused. They need to come out zeroed in saying, look, Cleveland embarrassed us. Take our frustrations out on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Be laser focused and just be like, look, we finna beat the holy crap out of these guys. Derrick Henry usually does very well when he goes back to Duval. He does well. He's from Yulee down there in Florida. He tends to have good games against the Jaguars in Florida. So that could be a factor. Like I said, Colin Johnson was somebody I kind of did a little scouting on, mainly when I was looking at, I was scouting, during the draft, looking at Jeff Gladney from TCU, and even looking at Jalen Reagor, the wide receiver who's now with the Eagles as well. So Colin Johnson is a big target. He's definitely going to be somebody in the red zone. He's, like you said, he's about 6'6", I want to say.
Yeah.
He's a big 6'6" kid. Good hands.
Good hands.
He has good hands. So this is a guy, we do have to be leery of him. James Robinson has become a very nice running back for them. We saw that in week 2, ran over 100 yards on us. So, could they be tanking for Justin Fields as a quarterback? True, they could, but they would love nothing more than to spoil our season. And let me add this last nugget. Remember, a couple of years ago, and this is where it could be a little scary for us. A couple of years ago, under Mike Mularkey, we were in this exact same situation. We were 8-4, looking good. Looked like we had a shot at winning the division. We had to take a trip out west to play Arizona and San Francisco. 2 games we look like we should take care of these 2 games. We should be coming back for the Rams at 10-4. We lost both of those games for very bad reasons. We lost both of those games. Then we lost to the Rams. So we lost 3 in a row and had to fight, scratch, and claw with Jacksonville just to get into the playoffs at 9-7.
Yep.
And we're about to head on that road again. Let's pray to God. We got to pray that history does not repeat itself. If this team remembers that and don't want that to happen again, take care of business on Sunday against Jacksonville to start. Take care of business. Go down there, run through them. Derrick Henry puts up 160-plus yards. Tannehill keeps it under control because this is not the same Jag defense from years past. Just be focused, take care of business, focus on the Jags only. Do not look ahead. We take this game, we get to 9-4. Let's roll.
I agree, my man. I agree. And I hope that they have a good day of practice, a good week of practice. I don't know what happened in practice last week leading up to that Cleveland game, but obviously they did not come into that game prepared. They did not come into that game hungry. Maybe it was, sleeping in their own beds on Saturday night instead of being at the hotel. So maybe being back on the road again in Jacksonville, maybe that will get them that security and that tight-knitness that a team needs to go out there and win this ball game. My main concern about the Titans as we go into the final stretch run of this season is their health, is their lack of healthy bodies. Because at some point, the lack of depth, the more starters you're missing, these guys are starters for a reason. And when you're missing a Taylor Lewan and a Jayon Brown, and a Jadeveon Clowney, Christian Fulton was scheduled to be your starter, your slot corner. When you're continually missing guys and guys are continually going in and out of the lineup due to injuries, due to suspensions, due to COVID, no matter what the situation is, it's really a detriment to this ball club. Now, the one good thing is that there's only really one superhouse team in the AFC, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. Everybody else has their flaws. Pittsburgh can't run the ball. Indy has a questionable running game themselves. The Ravens have all types of COVID issues right now. Every team has a flaw. As good as Josh Allen looked last night for Buffalo, we know that he can be up and down and streaky. You got Miami and the Raiders that are hot and cold. So the Titans are still in a really good position, but they have to stay healthy. Guys have to take care of their business and stay off the suspended list, and they have to take advantage of the weaker competition.
And let me add one more thing to that, if you don't mind. And, you say every team has their flaws and Kansas City is the only anomaly. Take a look back at that game with the Denver Broncos on Sunday night. And the games against the Raiders. The Chiefs don't exactly look. I mean, the Chiefs, yes, they have the most explosive offense I've ever seen since, the greatest show on turf. However, if we go back and take a look at that game against the Denver Broncos showed that the Chiefs could be vulnerable at times. And at times, they only they lost the game. They were doing pretty good. They held the Chiefs to just 22 points. They lost 22-16. Close game. If you get into a close game with the Chiefs, and if you're having the ball with a Derrick Henry, you got a shot. So, beating the Chiefs is not impossible. It is not impossible. It is a very tall task. Yes, it is. But the Chiefs showed a tad bit of vulnerability on Sunday. Could be possible. Very difficult, though. So I do agree.
My thoughts on the Chiefs, and we'll get out of here on this. I think they're playing around too much with teams. Like they're running a lot of, kind of trick plays and schoolyard plays, particularly when they get in the red zone. And I think they're fooling around with teams and they're good enough. They almost remind me of the Golden State Warriors a couple of years ago, where they could just go on these, 20-0 runs and put a team away. But as you mentioned, they have been struggling. Now, those have been divisional games, and we know, of course, how divisional games are when they're playing Denver and the Raiders. It's like us playing the Texans and the Colts. Anybody can win on any given Sunday. It doesn't matter what the records are. So I think Kansas City is probably a little bored right now, and they've been taking some teams lightly, but they are the one team, they are the only team that I really fear in the AFC. But
Agreed.
we've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes. Blue Enforcer, my man, I want to thank you for joining me here tonight, your first appearance on the show. Before we get out of here, we definitely want to invite everyone once again, subscribe to our channels, hit the like button, hit the notification button. You can find me at Kmore Sports on Twitter. You can find me at Kenmore Sports on Instagram. And there you see my man putting up his information there as well. Let them know once again, Blue Enforcer, where they can find you before we get out of here tonight.
Well, as y'all notice right here, there's Titans of Truth. That is the YouTube channel. So that's the YouTube channel. That's where y'all can find me. Also, y'all know on Facebook, TNT Enforcers. You can find me there, and also the Titans and Truth page. You saw my Instagram page earlier, and on Twitter at TNT Blue Enforcer. That's TNT BLUEN number 4 CER. You can find me on Twitter as well. I'm gonna get my Twitter game up. So yeah, definitely come check me out. Got a show coming tomorrow night about 6 p.m. At the latest, it'll probably be about 6:30. I'll let y'all know, but it will be tomorrow night at that time as we preview the Jags as well. We're gonna get a lot in depth into that. We're going to have a star of the week and dunce of the day, have some questions, and we're going to talk about this Jags game way more in depth, just like we did tonight. So, Ken, thank you, brother. Thank you for having me on the show. It has been an absolute pleasure, and definitely going to have you back on TNT as well.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on tonight. Good luck on your show tomorrow. I'll definitely be checking it out. Thanks for everyone that timed in tonight with their comments, their likes, their comments and everything. Go hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button, and I will see you either this weekend or next week. Join me on Twitter at Kmore Sports. I will let you know about the next show. So for Blue Enforcer, for Kmore Sports, thanking you for joining Titans, Browns the day after. We'll see you next time. Good night.